is victory.
Welcome to Victory News on this Monday, September 16th, 2024. I'm Mike Garofalo, along with Fior Hernandez and Tim Fox. Greg Stevens is on assignment. Here are a few of the stories we are watching for you right now. Kamala Harris sat down for an interview with a Philadelphia TV station last week, but despite the friendly atmosphere, she gave no details on how she claims she will bring down the high cost of living as president. And a victory against the so-called transgender agenda for a former University of Louisville, Kentucky professor. Is there hope for free speech and common sense? Ahead, we'll talk with Mass Exodus Movement founder Keisha King about these stories and more. But first, let's go to Fior Hernandez with the very latest on yesterday's attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Fior.
Mike, for the second time in just over 2 months, an attempt to kill Donald Trump. It happened around 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida. The former president was on the 5th hole preparing to putt when the Palm Beach County Sheriff said a Secret Service agent saw a rifle barrel sticking through a fence around 300 to 500 yards from Donald Trump. The agent reportedly fired his weapon at the gunman, who had an AK-47, 2 backpacks, and a GoPro camera. The man, who was later identified as 58-year-old Ryan Routh of Hawaii, fled the scene in a vehicle before taking any shots at Trump. He was caught on Interstate 95 in Martin County after a witness gave police his license plate number. Listen to Martin County Sheriff Will Snyder describe how the arrest went down after his deputies shut down the interstate.
Despite the fact that we had numerous people out with rifles, uniformed personnel, a helicopter, interstate shut down, he was as calm as if he was going to a Sunday picnic.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says he and his wife were en route to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Donald Trump after his golf game when the shooting or the attempted shooting incident occurred. Johnson has said by the time he arrived, the former president had just gotten back at the clubhouse and was in very good spirits.
There's no leader in the history of America that has been so attacked and has remained so strong and so resilient. He's one of a kind. He is not going to stop fighting for the American people, and it was really encouraging for us to sit and visit with him right after that happened.
According to Fox News, Routh is originally from North Carolina and has a long history of arrests, from simple drug possession, driving without a license, and operating a vehicle with no insurance. In his first court appearance this morning, Routh was initially charged with 2 federal gun crimes: possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obstructed serial number. His next hearing is September 23rd. 2 IRS whistleblowers filed a $20 million defamation lawsuit against Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell, Friday, and accused him of acting with clear malice when he falsely accused them of leaking the first son's private tax information. Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler indicated their reputations suffered incredible and malicious harm. The New York Post reported the filing detailed that the pair exposed conflicts of interest, preferential treatment, and political motivations that they believed were interfering with the young Biden's criminal tax investigation. Fox News reported the complaint underscores Lowell's allegations that the whistleblowers had committed felonies and violated the law, were published in the media, and as a result harmed their personal and professional reputations. Historically, African Americans have been loyal Democrats, but a new NAACP poll shows a bit of a shift in younger black males. According to Reuters, the survey showed 26% of black men under 50 years old said they supported Donald Trump versus 49% for Kamala Harris. 82% of black men under 50 listed economic issues among the most important challenges facing the country, compared to 73% of black women of all ages. The survey did show that 63% of black voters plan to support Harris, compared to 13% for Trump, but the former president has been making gradual gains with that voting bloc. The survey involved 1,000 registered black voters nationwide from August 6th to the 12th. Tim?
Fior, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled on Friday mail-in ballots without accurate dates on return envelopes must be thrown out. CBS News reports in late August, a Pennsylvania state court stopped requiring voters to include accurate handwritten dates on submitted mail-in ballots. But on September 13th, a 4-3 state court decision reinstated the requirement. 2 Democrats on the high court joined 2 Republicans to vacate the Commonwealth Court decision. With the reversal of the decision, more than 10,000 ballots could potentially be tossed within the key swing state due to expected discrepancies. The more Democrats say it's not a real issue, the more the names of non-citizens are found on state voter rolls. According to the Associated Press on Friday, officials in Oregon admitted that since 2021, they have mistakenly registered more than 300 non-citizen voters. The Oregon Department of Transportation spokesman Kevin Glenn says it happened because since 2019, Oregon has allowed non-citizens to obtain driver's licenses, and those people are automatically registered to vote when they obtain a license or ID. Officials say only 2 actually voted. However, the Washington Times reports in North Carolina, federal prosecutors brought charges against 37 non-citizens who voted in the 2016 election. In all, they cast a total of at least 99 ballots dating back to the 1996 election. But get this, some of the migrants remained on the voting rolls even after they were convicted and sentenced for crimes. In one case, a migrant showed a green card as proof of ID, and when it was clear he was voting Democrat, he was allowed to vote. True the Vote recently announced they are monitoring over 25 million ineligible names on voter rolls across the country. It is not clear how many may be non-citizens. And on Capitol Hill last week, secretaries of state spoke out about what they are doing to ensure election integrity come November. As the Washington Times reports, it turned into a competition of sorts as the secretaries talked about cleaning up their voter rolls. Ohio's Frank Rose said he had removed the names of 600 non-citizens from the rolls over the past year. But that paled in comparison to West Virginia's Andrew Warner, who says he had removed the names of 400,000 people who had either died, moved, or for some other reason were ineligible. Florida Secretary of State Cord Byrd said since 2022, his state had removed 1 million names from its voter rolls. And even a Democrat Secretary of State spoke up, with Michigan's Jocelyn Benson saying her state had removed 8,000 names over the past 5 years. Mike?
Tim, in her only one-on-one interviews since becoming the presumptive Democrat presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, at the end of last week, spoke to an anchor at ABC Action News in Philadelphia. Harris stuck to the same script from a presidential debate when asked to share specifics on bringing down the high cost of living.
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager.
Harris went on to say she grew up in a neighborhood of hard-working people who were proud of their lawns. After going around in circles, the vice president finally mentioned her plan to invest in small businesses, but still no specifics on lowering costs. When asked what makes her different than Joe Biden?
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And, you know, I offer a new generation of leadership. And so, for example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about investing in areas that really need a lot of work.
Vice President appeared a bit nervous and offered no direct answer on the difference between her and Joe. The vice president recently proposed another idea like no taxes on tips that sounded eerily familiar to one of Donald Trump's. This one calls for removing college degree requirements for certain federal jobs. Just happens to be a policy enacted by former President Trump in an executive order dating back to 2020. Trump's order aimed to prioritize skills over formal education in federal hiring, recommending that educational qualifications be required only when legally necessary. Harris announced her plan during a recent campaign stop in Pennsylvania, echoing Trump's earlier efforts to make federal hiring more inclusive. Some states, including Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Utah, have followed Trump's lead in revising job qualification requirements based on skills rather than degrees. All right, let's talk with Mass Exodus Movement founder and host of the Keisha King podcast. Keisha, welcome back to Victory News.
Thanks for having me.
So, Keisha, like no taxes on workers' tips, now Kamala Harris is promising no college degree requirements for certain federal jobs, something Donald Trump, of course, enacted in 2020. Is the vice president announcing these policies, do you think, to build her campaign or undercut Donald Trump? What do you think?
I think she has no plan. And of course, she's trying to build her campaign. I think she knows that the policies under Donald Trump work. And so she's trying to bite, as the young kids would say, she's trying to bite those policies so she can appear to have a plan. The only thing is that we know she doesn't have any policies because she can't go into detail on these things. The only thing that seems to get her jollies going is the issue of abortion. That's where she has a real clear vision. And just as a woman, I think that is appalling. But as far as her policies, since she's mimicking Trump, I think what she should do is just go ahead and throw on a Trump 2024 hat, just like Biden did. I mean, just go ahead and admit that his policies were better. Throw on the hat and let's quit the shenanigans already.
Keisha, on to the big story today. There is now fallout from 2 assassination attempts in 2 months against Donald Trump. Former U.S. Navy SEAL and FBI Special Agent Jonathan Gilliam explained to Fox News what he believes was the motivation for both men wanting to assassinate the former president.
There is a major issue here that everybody is missing because they're trying to be politically correct, and that is the fact that the left is a national security threat, that these types of actions that are being taken are not just being taken because this guy doesn't like Trump. It's the basis in which he doesn't like Trump, because Trump didn't support some of his ideals, which are leftist ideals.
Now, Keisha, how is it that the left keeps talking about dangerous conservatives, but the Republican candidate is the one having to duck bullets?
It makes no sense. I don't understand what is this hesitation to say this is wrong. We've been too radical in our speech over the last almost 10 years against one man, and so of course they have been spewing out the spirit of hate. And so yes, people are picking that up, and so now they're trying to act that out. They need to be honest and say we have gone too far, and they are the ones that need to pull back their rhetoric, tell the truth about Donald Trump, tell the truth about Kamala Harris, and let the chips fall where they may. The American people are smart enough to know what they want to do. So just stop already with the gaslighting. We know what is going on, and it just needs to end.
Right. Well, Keisha, MSNBC's Alex Witt and political analyst Elise Jordan addressed yesterday's foiled assassination, wondering when Donald Trump would tone things down.
Do you expect to hear anything from the Trump campaign about toning down the rhetoric, toning down the violence, or would that be atypical of the former president?
I would love for us to have a unity type moment, but I think it's probably going to be pretty fleeting, as we've seen in the past.
Keisha, in response to President Trump almost being shot at again, is MSNBC basically saying to him, stop trying to make liberals want to shoot you, or something akin to that?
Absolutely. That is so well said. But again, why is the onus on Trump to change something? They are the ones that are spewing these hateful messages. It is not the former president. It is just not him. So they can't make him be, someone they can no longer try to make him be someone that he's not. People are seeing through that. And we see that the people that are going after him, trying to literally kill him, they are the ones that have been, the leftist media is radicalizing these people. That's what it is, and we have to call it what it is. It is the leftist media, the mainstream media, radicalizing these people and creating these domestic terrorists.
Yeah, Keisha King, you're correct. All right, thank you for that. We're going to see you back here a little bit later in the newscast. Fior.
Mike, the American Civil Liberties Union is pouring millions of dollars into state Supreme Court races in Montana and Michigan. Emily Pacini is the deputy director for candidate races for the ACLU.
Some of the most closely watched court races this year are happening in Montana and Michigan, which are both states where we currently have pro-civil liberties majority courts. And in both of those states, we have opportunities to hold on to those majorities, and they're crucial holds.
According to the Washington Times, the organization announced Thursday it would spend $2.3 million in Supreme Court and certain House races in Michigan and $1.3 million in Montana, with the intent to inform voters on civil liberties. Marissa Kovach, the political director of the ACLU of Michigan, said, quote, "The Michigan Supreme Court is key to protecting our rights for years to come." Rashad Robinson, president of the Soros-backed racial justice organization Color of Change, reportedly visited the White House multiple times during the Biden administration, with logs suggesting at least 5 visits and possibly as many as 16. According to Just the News, Color of Change, which supports progressive prosecutors like Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, played a role in Bragg's election campaign, endorsing him and pledging $1 million. Robinson later credited his group for Bragg's prosecution of former President Donald Trump on business fraud charges. George Soros, a prominent donor to liberal causes, contributed $1 million to Color of Change PAC just after it endorsed Bragg. Soros has given over $1.45 million to the group, backing its efforts to elect progressive prosecutors nationwide, according to Just the News. Robinson's organization is not the only link between Trump's New York prosecution and the Biden administration. House Republicans have investigated Bragg's office, questioning the hiring of a former Biden Justice Department official, Matthew Colangelo. Tim?
The Nebraska Supreme Court ruled Friday that the radical Protect the Right to Abortion initiative may remain on the November ballot. The Thomas More Society has filed a lawsuit and argued against the state's potential expansion on killing the unborn, decrying the initiative's remarkably misleading terms, violating the single subject rule and the establishment of a right to kill the unborn after viability until birth, as reported by Life News. Thomas More attorneys argued that nearly 50 years of legislative enactments would be effectively abolished, which would include the state's dismemberment abortion ban and the parental notification requirement for a minor to kill their unborn child. Arizona has officially repealed its 1864 abortion ban. The repeal comes after a 2-year legal battle and highlights the ongoing national debate over abortion rights ahead of the 2024 presidential election.
I would say this to Vice President Harris today in Arizona. You are supporting your party is for 39 weeks, no question, including in her home state of California, Illinois, New York, Colorado. In Arizona, if the ballot initiative passes, it's 24 weeks. There are babies surviving and thriving, being born at 24 weeks or earlier.
Now, the Arizona repeal reflects voter concern over near total abortion laws, a major issue in this fall's presidential election. VP Harris advocates returning to federal control of a woman's right to abortion up to the Roe v. Wade 22 weeks of pregnancy, while former President Trump said that states should decide such issues. Mike?
Tim, the Hispanic Vote Coalition, along with the Job Creators Network, is organizing a faith-based event to encourage Hispanic voters to get out and vote. According to Just the News, Mary Thomas of the Hispanic Vote Coalition said Hispanics can no longer sit on the sidelines while our values and the very foundation of our economic freedoms are under attack in America. More than 30% of Nevada's population identifies as Hispanics, or did in 2022, which was up from 18.7% in 2020. Pastor Camilo Perez said this about the issue: "Today, more than ever, Hispanics have the opportunity to change the course of the history of this country that has been a blessing, refuge, and opportunity for us and our generations." The faith-based Get Out the Vote event is scheduled for Saturday, September 21st. A victory against the aggressive transgender agenda for a former University of Louisville, Kentucky professor. A 3-judge panel for the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled last week in favor of Alan Josephson. Josephson alleges he was demoted and ousted by the university because he shared his opinions on treatment for gender dysphoria, trans sufferers, that is, when participating on a panel at the Heritage Foundation in 2017. Josephson and other panelists questioned the idea of gender identity and the efficacy of administering cross-sex hormones to children confused about their sex, as reported by the Christian Post. Josephson taught at the University of Louisville in the psychology department since 2003. The former professor now heads back to district court for a trial. Let's bring the founder of the mass exodus movement back in, Keisha King. Keisha, Dr. Alan Josephson questioned the idea of gender identity and the efficacy of administering cross-sex hormones to children confused about their sex. Cost him his job. Now he is headed back to trial with a district court ruling in his favor. Keisha, do public universities have any business punishing professors for differing views from colleagues or even administrators?
No, they shouldn't. A university is where ideas are supposed to be expressed and challenged, and they should have open debate. You want these ideas to be out there, especially since it's become such a major topic in our society. So where better of a place to have those is in the universities, and also in your home, of course. But having those debates and fleshing these things out can bring more knowledge to these ideas. So no, they should be able to discuss these things, and it is the First Amendment right to do so.
Mm-hmm. Now, Keisha, you posted documents from the ABC News whistleblower affidavit that alleges Kamala Harris was given an unfair advantage in her recent debate with Donald Trump. What did you discover?
Yes, so there is a whistleblower from ABC News, and this is a post that I found from another social media account. And what is happening is this man is saying he has recordings. This whistleblower is saying he has recordings of ABC News colluding with the Harris team, specifically saying we're going to fact check Donald Trump, but not Kamala Harris, as that we saw that play out on the debate stage. So this is, again, the left, the Democrats, trying to manipulate the election. We saw this, I think it was in 2020 or 2016 with Hillary Clinton getting the debate questions before the debate by Donna Brazile. And I believe she is now working at ABC also. And so there's so many issues with the debate. We had Kamala's sorority sister asking the questions. We have this whistleblower outlining multiple issues with this debate and her campaign colluding with ABC News. This is a problem, and this is basically election interference.
You know, Keisha, Representative Jasmine Crockett appeared on MSNBC's Inside with Jen Psaki to stoke the fires of hatred against former President Donald Trump before the Florida assassin was caught later that day. Take a listen.
Right now, I feel like MAGA in general, they are threats to us domestically, and we see it time and time again. And I think that's why you see so many national leaders, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, coming together to say there is only one person qualified to be the commander-in-chief, and that is Kamala Harris.
Now, Crocker also said the problem isn't the people coming in, but this guy and his people here doing the bomb threats throughout our country, and domestic terrorism is a real thing. Keisha, is this the type of rhetoric that led to the two attempts on Donald Trump's life?
Yes, it is this, and it is much more. Like, why can't there be any sympathy and empathy for President Trump and his life being attempted to be taken from him a second time? These are the same people who tell us that, they want unity and they are, the compassionate ones and all of this. They never even bother to ask how Donald Trump is doing. They never express any concern for his well-being. They never express any concern that the Secret Service, who not only protects former President Trump, but President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, none of them seem to care that there is a failure of the Secret Service. They don't even bring that up, because then you would have to actually express some concern for Donald Trump, and that is the last thing that they are willing to do. And so, yes, they are continuing on this line of attack, and I would not be surprised if they stop talking about this and just try to move on to the next story.
You find out more about Keisha when you visit KeishaKing.com and massexodusmovement.com. Thanks for joining us today, Keisha.
Thanks. Thank you.
Fior.
Officials in Venezuela have arrested several foreign nationals, including 3 U.S. citizens, accusing them of plotting to destabilize the country and assassinate President Nicolás Maduro. The arrests come amid growing tensions between Venezuela, the U.S., and Spain over disputed elections and international sanctions. Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello claims the alleged conspiracy was orchestrated by the CIA and Spain's intelligence agency, linking the detainees to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. The government accuses the group of engaging in terrorist activities aimed at undermining Maduro's leadership. Washington recently imposed sanctions on Venezuelan officials for obstructing the electoral process, but categorically denies any involvement in an assassination attempt. Among those arrested were a U.S. Navy SEAL, 2 other American citizens, 2 Spaniards, and a Czech national. The Pentagon is rolling out a series of new initiatives to help improve the quality of life for military personnel and their families amid the worst recruiting crisis since ending the draft 50 years ago. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin last week told CBS Mornings he talked to troops and their families to find what was most important to them.
We focused on things like enhancing economic security, also supporting our military spouse careers, and strengthening our families, and also making moves easier.
Flexible spending accounts toward out-of-pocket health care costs, increased benefits for child care center staff on bases, and high-speed Wi-Fi internet access at junior personnel barracks were included, along with providing military spouses up to $4,000 in assistance for licensing, certification, or an associate's degree. Tim?
For your Sunday, September 15th, marked 4 years since the historic Abraham Accords under the Trump administration. It was a series of treaties fostering peace between Israel and other Middle East nations. But today, Israel is at war to defend its land and people. And with the latest, here's ILTV and Israel 365's Steve Leibowitz.
After more than 11 months of cross-border shelling by Hezbollah into northern Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu says the situation cannot continue. Netanyahu was speaking ahead of his meeting with visiting U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein, who has visited Israel and Lebanon repeatedly since the start of the war in Gaza. Hochstein is here in his latest diplomatic push for an end to the cross-border warfare and to avoid it spinning into full-scale war in Lebanon. More information is emerging on the missile fired at central Israel yesterday by Houthi rebels from Yemen. The missile evaded Israel's advanced detection systems and was not brought down until it was over Israeli airspace, raising questions for air defense. From northern Yemen, the missile requires only 12 to 15 minutes to reach central Israel. The Houthi missiles come from Iran and are nearly identical to the Iranian Gadir missile, which is similar to the earlier Shahab-3. The army has confirmed that 3 Israeli hostages were killed as a byproduct of an Israeli airstrike in November. The indication is that the cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning caused by the bomb blast. Steve Leibowitz for ILTV and Victory News.
Thank you, Steve. Join us as we continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. You know, this morning I was meditating on the word protection. Came across this scripture in Psalms 32:7. It says, "You are a hiding place for me. You preserve me from trouble. You surround me with shouts of deliverance." You know, the Bible is full of scriptures about protection, and that really applies to each and every one of us. God is our protector, and He's the protector of this nation. If you need prayer, call 877-281-6297. One of our anointed prayer ministers will be there to answer that call and pray with you about anything you need prayer for. Father, we thank you that you are our protector. You're the protector of our nation. You're the protector of each and every one of us, Lord, and we thank you for that. And we walk in that protection, and we walk boldly in it, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Mike?
Thank you, Tim, and our thanks to Keisha King, and especially to you for joining us. We return at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, with Marine veteran and author Kate Monroe, so please join us then. The world reports the problem, but the Victory Channel brings the answer. Whatever is born of God overcomes the world, and this is the victory that has overcome the world. Our faith, 1 John 5:4. Be sure to stay in faith. God bless you. We're going to look for you right back here this afternoon on the Victory Channel. We'll see you then.